wait on the Lord. My soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than the watchman for the morning. More than the watchman for the morning. It is Psalm 130, verses 5 through 6. Or at least that's what a quick internet search said. After a conversation I held yesterday with someone who is a very dear friend of mine, I had it brought to my attention by that friend that in this place I am in of waiting and pushing and waiting and pushing, mentally, physically, and spiritually through a bunch of different things, whose physical representation of my patience and my push have been put into the gym. In this time of that, I'm struggling to wait. Obviously, I'm aware of this, but I very much struggle. I tend to be a patient person when I'm not having to wait for something that I feel like I should have control over, or when it comes to myself. I'll be patient with others just about 100% of the time. Well, I won't say that, but I am 100% more patient for other people than I am for myself. And it was suggested to me that both of us, because we're both in a position of waiting, and we both hold the same scriptural and religious foundational beliefs, which is Messianic Judaism, that we look in the Old Testament and in the New Testament for verses in the Bible that speak on what waiting looks like, what waiting is meant to look like in this covenant with God. And that verse in particular resonated with me the most in my searching this morning. I will tell you why. My soul waits in this moment. My spirit waits. And obviously, my body and my mind also wait. We know from previous discussions that I've had on this channel that I believe body, mind, and soul are all interconnected. The mind views what my soul is doing and translates it into what the body should do. That is what harmony to me and congruency and balance looks like, truly. For me, to me. I don't know if that's actually true. And I think my soul has been in unrest because I've not been waiting. I've not been patient. And in some ways, I have not been diligently trusting the words that I know to be true. And yet, I also know that I am diligently waiting. And there are a number of reasons that I have not succeeded at waiting the way that I should be, at being patient. For starters, I think there are a couple of issues of things that I really wanted to reframe my mindset and my viewpoints on when it came to my personal relationship with my wife. That both of us were aware that I did not frame in a healthy way. And I spent a very long time framing that in a way that was, I felt was very healthy compared to where I was at, and had the potential to be utilized and worked on and modified in a way that would be healthy for both of us together. There was a time where I was the only one who could do it because of other circumstances, and that's totally fine. It needed to happen, but in all reality, it can work to where we both are on the same page. And I think I never addressed that page. I think I just kind of, for whatever reason, just tried to passively wait for the effects of my mindset to just take place. And the downfall of that is they did not, because I did not share these things with my wife, and we weren't able to be on the same page. And as a result, I waited. I have emotional needs, and I have various different needs that I want to be met. And we had already discussed that in many ways she needs to notice them, but in many ways I need to be the one to bring them up, because they're my needs. And if she doesn't know that I need them, or she doesn't know that I'm having a hard time or struggling, she cannot help me. It's the same with her. I can't read her mind. And in a particular issue, primarily, I reframe my mindset on how I handled that, and how I really tried to be diligent myself with, number one, not trying to get her to read my mind about it, being honest about it, but also not obsessing over it, because I struggled with that. And in the last week or so, probably the last 2 weeks, I realized yesterday, both in how I viewed it mentally, but then how I actually, handled the situation in the moment with her, dealing with the actual issue at hand. I realized somehow at some point I lost that mindset, and I lost not necessarily the progress I made, but holding on to that progress, because I realized I was thinking about and then physically handling the issue in the same way I had been before the 6 weeks that I had put effort and time into reframing my mind. I'm not sure exactly where or why I lost that, but I had even realized the first time I chose to handle that particular problem that I have with her in the way that I had already reframed my mind, it was the most successful that I have ever been in handling that in the moment. And it boosted my confidence, truly. And then I handled the same problem yesterday, and I realized I did it in the same way I used to. And I don't feel like it was quite as much of a victory. It was still a victory, but it wasn't the same kind. I'm able to recognize that. I'm able to recognize that and be okay with it. But I've not been patient, and I've not been waiting in the correct way. Waiting on the correct time and strategy to move. Waiting on the correct signals from the Lord, from the Father up above, to remind me, hey, you're good. You're pushing hard. You're working hard. Don't be so hard on yourself. And His silence when you're being hard on yourself is pointed and intentional, because He is allowing you the space and me the space to stop and say, you know what? The most impact of a voice that will be in my life in the beginning stages of improvement and in the earlier stages of a particular religion. I don't care which one. If your religion only became real to you recently, even if it's in the last 6 months, the most prominent and impactful voice in your head will likely not be the God of that religion yet. Not because you don't have faith in that God, not because you don't trust in that God, not because I don't trust in God, but because I'm still having to lean into that faith and retrain myself to really prioritize the importance of God's voice impacting my life more than my own. But the one that impacts my life the most right now, and the one that has the most potential to do harm or good, is my own. So God allows you the space to retrain your mind to first put you in the position of saying, you know what? I am okay. I am pushing hard. I am not going to settle for mediocrity, but I am pushing. I don't need to be so needlessly hard on myself, so hard on my mind and on my soul for not being what my mind thinks it should be. If you let your mind drive, I've already said this, if you let your mind drive the vehicle of your body, you're going to hate yourself, because your body is always going to be steps behind where your soul is. You're going to hold yourself at the highest value and the highest standard, yet also at the lowest value for not meeting that standard. And that standard will be impossible to achieve, because the journey of life is, again, your body is remembering where your soul came from. Your soul never forgot, but your body did. Your mind did. And because it's been attached to the body, you're having to remember every day. So, my diligence in waiting in my marriage was not very good. My diligence in waiting in my religion was not good, because I had walked into a fear, and I'll preface this by saying, I've grown up in a mindset where some of the men in my life have shown me there are things that you have a passion for, and things, I'm sorry, my hand is cramping. There are things you have a passion for, and things that, perhaps you feel convicted, or you feel like this is what you want to do, and it becomes a thing you pursue relentlessly for probably 1 or 2 months. And then once the high of this new thing that feels fulfilling wears off, you give up and you move on to the next hobby. I've seen it happen so many times. And unfortunately, the hobby that ends up getting stuck to, or the view or practice that ends up getting stuck to, has always ended up being one that is of no consequence. This is the thing that I will constantly keep doing. I've been doing it for years now, because it requires little commitment, and there's no danger to committing to a trivial hobby. And I walked in fear. A fear that my religious views, even though I still 100% believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is the truth. I've done the work to find evidence, and to me, this is the evidence that is able to convince me Messianic Judaism is the way. Now, if you don't believe that, that's okay. Peace to you, and do as you will. I have no qualms with you. I am required not to. It is in the first commandment. But if you ask me what I believe the truth is found in reading the whole Christian Bible, Messianic Judaism, reading in the Jewish texts and traditions, and then applying New Testament Christian theology to that, and realizing the mirrors, the parallels, the references, and how much more complete and whole of a story it becomes. I believe it to be true. Yet I was afraid the high of that religious, spiritual feeling was going to leave, and I was going to give up and chase the next thing. I didn't want to do that because this is the truth. I had a discussion that reminded me, it's cyclical. There will be periods of great learning and great vigor and joy, and periods where you must simply just apply what you've learned and move forward. I believe I'm in those periods. I'm in the period of applying, application rather than learning. Which is okay. There's a lot to apply. I think I have a playlist for myself of like 150 or 200 videos on this topic of Messianic Judaism alone, of which I've watched almost every one of them in the last 6 months. That's a lot. I don't mind that, but nevertheless, it is a lot. And perhaps I should apply it instead of trying to find more. But I wasn't willing to see that or think that because, again, my patience was not there. In a situation of uncertainty in my life, my trust in God, I really didn't hold any suddenly, because I felt the need to take care of things myself. It's a situation that could be potentially financially tough. It would put more responsibility on my shoulders, potentially. All of these things. So I'm choosing to work overtime a lot. I'm choosing to push harder at the gym than I ever normally would. I'm choosing all of these things because if I'm not doing something, I can't wait. But that's not diligent. It's not healthy. I must wait. I must learn what being still is. I must wait, and my soul must wait. I must learn to have my hope in the words that I know are true. And I know these things, and yet I struggle with them. But what resonated with me the most, that caused me to make a change even today, that I believe is necessary, was that my soul waits more than the watchman for the morning. Now, the watchman for the morning, I believe, in the Jewish time of ancient Israel, they would watch in the evening for the first 2 stars to announce that the day had turned from the previous day into a new day, starting at the night cycle. But then they would watch for the sun to rise in order to announce the beginning of a new day, a new morning. And it was their job. They did not sleep during those points of time where they were appointed to watch. They went on their own cycles as well. But they watched faithfully and diligently. And what struck me was not just that it's watching more than these men who are required to watch as diligently as possible, but it's the fact that it's so important that it is repeated twice. I don't know how many times I've had to repeat myself, looking in the mirror and choosing to push forward and just use my image as motivation to try harder. You are not that. You are not that. You are on your journey to success. You are on that journey to success. And the issue of my personal life, you are not this. You are not that. Just keep waiting, keep being patient. Be strong. Or even in my desperate, or perhaps not desperate, but heartfelt and love-struck words toward God or to my wife, the importance in repeating a certain thing that holds weight, that holds an emotional and a love weight to it. When I look at my wife, I have to say she's beautiful twice. You're beautiful. You are beautiful. It's an emphasis that is remarkably beautiful to me. And it caused me to believe that I should wait. Of course I should, but I should be more diligent to wait. And not only that, I should wait with love, with melancholy, but with hope. Hope is not something I've always been good at. But hope is something I want to choose. And on a final note, in that conversation I have with this dear friend of mine, it was also brought up that in the time of waiting, you can view it as though you should do the very last thing that God told you to do, and continue to do it until something else is given to you and said. Because if God tells you to do something for a certain amount of time and then doesn't tell you anything for a long time afterward, perhaps it means you are supposed to continue doing that thing for that time that you've been waiting for something else. And I pondered that and I realized maybe I should do that. In the endeavor to better myself, I must continue to better myself. But I must maximize and make more efficient the time I do so. That is what I believe I have been called to do for myself right now. Spend less time at the gym, but more quality. Because the more time I spend, the less quality. I fatigue. Instead of focusing on a handful of different exercises that are powerful and letting them push me to the absolute limit, I do many exercises and I push myself to the limit, sure, sometimes too far, sometimes not far enough, but it costs a lot of time that I also need to spend in study and in working on bettering myself and tapping into the Spirit at home. Time that I could spend working on things that are hobbies for me, but my hobby is one of the ways I connect spiritually on a deeper level, which is working through instruments, drums, guitar, bass. I've not done any of that. We're going to be changing our workout schedule. I believe I've been convicted to have a 20-minute workout routine for each instrument. So instead of a push-pull legs, it would be guitar, bass, drums. The bass pushes and the guitar pulls the weight after the bass is pushing through the mix. And of course the drums are your legs. It lines up perfectly. But I've not done anything like that for myself as of recently. I can spend more and better time with my family. I can do better maintaining my home. I can do better not necessarily getting up on time. I've been doing good with that. But having a regular and set bedtime routine. All of these things I feel I have been called to do. I've also been called to analyze my life and find the things that must be cut out and make some changes. So at that point, here is an announcement that I have to make. Today is Friday the 11th, I believe. This is the final day of my 3rd week of intermittent fasting. Or my 4th week, I don't recall. Somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks. This is the final day of one of those two numbers, 3 or 4. As of Monday, August, what would that be? 14th. I have made the decision that I will no longer continue to intermittent fast. Not because I don't see progress, I do, but I also see negative side effects. And those side effects are, I've realized, not only am I struggling with weighting, struggling in spiritual and physical areas, I am not consuming enough food in a day. Even though it's enough for me to be in a calorie deficit, I am not consuming enough food in a day to keep me from having random bouts of depression. Truly. And I've had various problems with that before. I have dealt with it. But I think it's no coincidence. I get sad when I'm hungry. I get sad when I'm tired. So if I'm tired and hungry, I'm turbo sad. It's no coincidence to me that I've been turbo sad quite a lot. I've not eaten enough. I eat a sandwich at 2 o'clock when my work shift is over. And I eat dinner sometime later. Probably between 6 and 10. It's a 4-hour window. I never know which one I'm going to get, just based on how things go. Well, that's very tough on the body. Instead, I will choose to track, my calories and my macros, I suppose, to keep me mostly just in a low-calorie diet for a deficit for the time being. For anyone who has followed me and known anything about my intermittent fasting, I appreciate your support. But now it is needed in other areas. No more intermittent fasting. Because at the end of the day, you must protect your body and do what is right. Because if your body's not able to function, you won't carry the boats. You won't fight the lion. Who's going to fight the bears? Who's going to fight the lion? I am. Because I listen to my body, and because I'm diligent. I am waiting on the Lord. I'm patient on the Lord. I hope and trust in the words that I know are true. I wait more than the watchman for the morning. Indeed, more than the watchman for the morning.